At the end of a mortal's life, apart from the holy realm in the West, it is time to judge which realm he will go to, whether it's heaven, human, animal, hungry ghost, or hell. If the family dependent of the dying person can help him recite the Buddha's name, they are sending his consciousness to the sacred realm of the West, and he will be free from the suffering sea of birth and death forever. However, at the end of your life, with unjust karma in previous lives, all the creditors are coming. Will they let you go? Since you have not yet settled the debt, they won't leave you at ease at the end of your life. At that moment, most responsibility rests with the family members and chanting assistants. Therefore, if you are a Buddha chanting practitioner, you should not rely on the fact that you have been practicing for many years and have done a lot of merits and charities. Except for those practitioners who are confident that they can leave any time at ease, it is important to help the dying to pray at the end of their lives. Let me cite a lotus friend who was reborn months ago as evidence. Mrs. Huan Hong, 62 years old, the head of the almsgiving class and the 48th vow class of the Lotus Society of Taichung. Among those who have been close to the respected teacher Bing Nanli for 20 years, she is arguably the most blessed, the most devout, and the most big-hearted, and she is incomparable. She has the blessing of the most peaceful family. She has a filial daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren. All her family believe in Buddhism and chant the Buddha. Her family is well off. She is never stingy with giving, so the teacher appoints her as the leader of the charity class. She is so devoted to Buddhism that whenever the teacher gives a lecture or holds a meeting, nothing can stop her, no matter it's windy or raining. She is not only devoted but also inclined to benefit others at every moment. I often praise Huan Hong in public. The most difficult people to transform are the family and the neighbors. But what about Huan? She is arguably both wise and compassionate and good at expedience. Not only is her family like-minded, but also almost every family in her community is devout to the three saints of the West. It is unprecedented to see a person who can convert the whole alley of people to Buddhism. That is entirely the achievements of her great bodhicitta. She also serves as secretary of the Women's Association of North Central District in Taichung, where she has persuaded a dozen families out of their discord. When young couples face a broken relationship and are going to split up with their children, she persuades them with unparalleled eloquence. Then the families become harmonious, contented, and convert to the three jewels. Therefore, everybody praises Huan for her excellent family environment. Associated with her compassion and willingness to give, you can say that she has a perfect life. Unfortunately, Hung suddenly contracted a gastrointestinal disease last year. She had a surgical operation once, and her condition was stable until February this year. After she had been treated with Chinese and Western medicines, both cures were ineffective. When being seriously ill, she asked Teacher Li for expounding. The teacher saw that she was taking sedatives and was in a daze, so he instructed her children that they should never give her sedatives again in the future. If she becomes dizzy during the chanting, her spiritual consciousness will not go to the West. At 3 p.m. on the 17th, in the Lotus Society, I received a call from her daughter, saying that her mother had passed out. Immediately, I went to help the chant with several people. At that time, we all saw her panting rapidly, unconsciously, kept raising and lowering her hands, as if she was trying to push something away. We kept chanting the Buddha's name until about 5 p.m. When her shortness of breath subsided, and her hands stopped moving up and down, she gradually regained consciousness and was able to speak. She told us, "Sisters, thank you very much. I'm okay now. Please take a rest." I said you must quietly think of the Buddha and not to talk much. It was already 6 p.m. at this time, so I told her children that in case of danger in the middle of the night, all of you children and grandchildren should step up to chant Buddha. But the voices must be in unison. It is disallowed to have some chanting Ah, some chanting To, and some chanting Me. The front mixes with the rear, which will instead disturb the hearing of the dying person. After I left the words, I went home with Lotus friends separately. In the morning of the next day, when I thought of a close friend who was about to pass away, I couldn't help feeling sad. I immediately ran to see what happened last night. As soon as I entered their door, Juan heard my voice and yelled loudly, "Sister Kanzhi, come here." Then I sat on the edge of her bed. She said to me, "I was so lucky to have you chanting Buddha for me yesterday afternoon, because back then it was as if I was being pressed by a big black shield, which was so heavy that I couldn't breathe. I only had 2 free hands. I tried to push them away with my hands. When I raised my hands and tried to push them away, I couldn't do it." I asked her, "Why didn't you recite Amitabha Buddha?" She said, "I was pressed so overwhelmed that I couldn't recite with my mouth or recite with my heart. It was so fortunate that I could still hear the holy names you chanted. The voice was so loud and clear that the black shield gradually disappeared. I just felt relaxed and slowly came to my senses. Further, I saw a realm in my dream yesterday and said a lot more." I asked her what she said. She said, "Last night, at about 2 o'clock, I saw a child dressed in white, about 8 years old, with a decent face, appearing in my room. I asked him, 'You are a thief, are you here to steal something?' The child immediately denied, 'No. No.' I asked him again, 'Where are you from and what are you doing here?' He replied, 'I come from the 6th path reincarnation to collect my debt and to settle account with you.' I said, 'I am innocent, and I never in debt to anyone.' The child said, 'Not in this life, but a debt in the previous life. When in the previous life, you were a killing maniac in Taipei and killed 40 cats. You abandoned them in the Keelung River. If you don't believe me, you can check it out. I'm one of them. After you killed me, you threw me into the river, and I fell on the bank. A man named Shi rescued me later. But I couldn't live anymore. So he tied me up with a rope and hung me on a tree. I had received the essence of the sun and the moon so that I could get this human form. But my 39 brothers and sisters are still suffering there in the form of cats. I'm here to ask you to liberate our cat brothers and sisters from their misery." I quickly said, "Sure. Our Lotus Society will worship our ancestors in the middle of the month, so it would be nice to give you salvation by the way." But the boy said, "No. No. You must make 2 bamboo baskets to hold those 39 cats, and you must recite the sutra personally in your house," and I promised. Juan not only told me about this, but also told many Lotus friends about it. She invited a dozen Lotus friends to her home to recite the Earth Store Sutra and recite Sutra Confessions for 3 days to liberate the 40 cats from the suffering. On the last day, they did a universal giving in the evening to resolve the knot and relieve them of their grievances. On the morning of March 5th, someone called and said that one was about to be reborn, and she had only a little breath left. Then I went to her home to chant the Buddha with a few more people. After we recited for about 1 hour, her daughter said to me, "Auntie, my mother has been like this since last night, with only a breath of air, and is still lingering till now. She once told me to change her clothes before she passed away. I wonder if she has not yet changed her clothes so that she refuses to be reborn? Can we change clothes for her now?" I said, "No. I am afraid that if we move her now, she will be distressed and will not be reborn." So we recited it again for about 30 minutes, and she was still the same. I thought maybe she was really obsessed with changing clothes first, so I called everyone to suspend chanting. I went to her ear and said aloud, "Sister Juan, you've been chanting the Buddha for 20 years and wholeheartedly seek rebirth in the West. You already understand this Saha world is false and suffering. In the decades of life in the world, everyone will die eventually, only differ in order. Sukhavati is our stable home and hometown. Amitabha Buddha is our great compassionate father, and he is coming to pick you up. You have to let go of all affinities and recite the Buddha wholeheartedly. We will now help you to recite the Buddha's name and send you to Sukhavati. In the future, you will come back with your vows to widely liberate all living beings. Juan, you have to let go of everything. We invite Amitabha Buddha to guide you, and you must chant the Buddha with us. It was incredible. Everyone saw that when I spoke to her, she opened her eyes and kept nodding, expressing her satisfaction. We continued to recite for 5 minutes, and she left with a smile on her face. It was exactly 11 a.m. on the 5th day of March. After she had breathed her last, we recited another 8 hours. Later, her children and grandchildren took a bath for her and changed her clothes, and prepared for her afterlife. Based on the above examples, we can see that when Hong saw a heavy black shield before she died, which pressed her to suffer so much that she couldn't get rid of it by herself. Without these lotus friends chanting the Buddha beside, could she return to consciousness for 2 more weeks and use Buddha Dharma to do the merit of resolving grievances and knots for those kitten souls? And those innocent souls knew that Hong recited Buddha from time to time, could be born in the West, and this debt of injustice cannot be repaid. So one of them had no choice but to appear as a child, frankly telling a karmic story of being slaughtered in the previous life, and asked to chant sutras for them to liberate them from suffering. It is thus evident that the cause and effect are astounding and awe-inspiring. When I write this, I can't help but feel my hair stand on end and sigh deeply. To be honest, as the saying goes, if I'm not gonna ferry this body in this life, how many lifetimes later will I ferry this body?